Hello. All right. Hopefully this works. I am on Wi-Fi. Okay. I am not in my house. I am in somebody else's house. So, but I think everything's gonna work out. As you hop on, say hello. Let me know you're here. Sometimes I can see who's watching and I can't see some other people. I don't know why. All right, we still have a minute or two, but as you hop on, say hello if you're watching the live. If you're watching the replay, still feel free to say hello. I always love to see, I get a whole bunch of notifications going back from people rewatching the lives and commenting as well. So I really enjoy to see all of that interaction. I think the last live we ended at 50 comments, and then going back it has over 60 now, so that's super cool to know that people are going back and watching these things. But as you hop on, say hello. It is 6 o'clock and I know it is Father's Day. Some of you are spending time with your families and having cookouts or whatever it is, or taking your father out or whatever it may be. And so my goal here isn't to keep you as long as possible. If you are watching the replay, I completely understand. This is why I'm in a strange house. This is my brother and sister-in-laws, and I'm going to head across the street here in just a few minutes once we get done with the live. Hey, Heather. Hey, Colleen. So as you hop on, say hello. But today we are talking about macros. Today is day 2 of the Nutrition 101 workshop. And as some of you indicated from the post I made this morning, some of you have heard the term before. Some of you may be comfortable and know exactly what macros are. Others have no idea what macros are. So tell me what you are. Put a 1 in the comments if you're thinking, I know and I am comfortable with macros. Put a 2 is, I have a general idea, but I would need a lot of help. And a 3 being, what are these macros you speak of? So 1, 2, or 3, what are you? Put them in the comments so I know where everybody is at, and I can best direct everything today. 1 being, I know what they are. 2 being, kinda. 3 being, not a clue. 1, 2, or 3. All right, we got some 2s. Okay. Awesome. So on the post, people were all over the place. I loved it. I love it. So the word macros is short for macronutrients. We have macronutrients and we have micronutrients. And food and drink can be defined by their nutrients, both macro and micro. And this information is generally on a food label or a nutrition label. So we have 3. If you haven't grabbed paper and a pencil, please do. Now's the time. If you are watching the replay, you can pause and then go grab it. Okay, so there are 3 macronutrients. We have carbohydrates, or carbs for short. We have fats, and we have proteins. And these are all 3 are essential to the body for it to function properly. And we are going to break down each one. So first, we're going to talk about fats. So a lot of people tend to freak out when we talk about fat because they are under the impression that fat makes them fat. And that's not always the case. Yes, it's the same word, but we should be using different words for that for whatever reason, but it's the same word. But we're going to get into that a little bit more. But fats essentially help with the transportation of nutrients and hormones throughout the body, which is super important. You may have heard of omega-3s. You may have heard of omega-6s. And these are fats that, are required, but that they are necessary for the body, for normal body function. Fat is also the long-term energy source of the body. Breaking this down a little further, we can break down fats into saturated fats, trans fats, and unsaturated fats. And I'm going to post a graphic at the end of this live, so don't worry too much about this. But we need to aim to consume unsaturated fats, and that graphic will outline a lot of that. But again, fats should not be avoided. Yes, there are some fats that have more nutritional value than others, and those are the ones that we should primarily aim to consume, but completely avoiding fats isn't probably ideal. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. A thumbs up. It can either be the like button or a thumbs up in the comments. If that makes sense, thumbs up. It's interactive again today. Making you people work for it. I need a haircut. Okay. All right, we got some thumbs up. All right. All right, so next we have carbohydrates, or carbs for short. And this is another one people seem to want to avoid with various fad diets. Carbs are the body's and the brain's main source of energy. If you want your brain to function optimally, you need to eat some carbs. So we can further define carbs as either simple carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates. And all that means, all that refers to is the structure. If we're looking at chemistry, if we're looking at the molecular structure, that's all it is. The simple carbohydrate can break down a whole lot easier, a whole lot quicker than a complex carbohydrate. So it takes a little bit more time to break that down, and it's a little bit more for that long-term energy. Whereas the simple carbs, energy is used right away. So sugars fall under the simple carbohydrate category. Sugar isn't necessarily bad. But it is the added sugar that we have to watch. Other sugars are found in things like fruit, in dairy. So simple sugars. Complex are things like fiber and starches. Fiber helps you to feel full and helps keep you regular because the body can't readily digest fiber. So it helps push things through the digestive system. Starches, on the other hand, are complex carbohydrates that can be digested and broken down by the body. And again, it takes a little bit longer than the simple carbohydrates. Again, I will post a graphic about this, so don't worry too much about getting all the notes or anything like that. But again, carbs should not be avoided. Okay? So if that makes sense, give me a heart. Put a heart either in the comments or the little love button. That makes sense. Oh, wait. Love button or the heart. And it lets me know you're still paying attention. All right, we got a few. Okay, so lastly, we have protein. And protein is what helps the body build, repair, and create new cells. It can also help with keeping us fuller longer. As far as classification goes, proteins can either be complete proteins or incomplete proteins. All this means is that complete proteins have all 9 essential amino acids. You're like, what the heck are amino acids? Well, amino acids, if you break down protein, that's what it breaks down to, is amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. If it's an incomplete source of protein, it has some combination of the 9, but not all of them. And these incomplete protein sources can be combined with other types of incomplete protein sources to create a complete protein source. Again, I'll share a graphic so that will all be very clear. But complete protein comes from animal sources: meat, eggs, dairy, with the exception of soy. Soy is considered a complete protein source. Incomplete proteins come from nuts, grains, beans, vegetables, things like that. So again, I'll share that graphic with you. But if you're still with me, if that makes sense, give me the happy emoji. Look at all these emojis. A smiley face. Give me a smiley face. And we're going to get into what all this means next. If you're still with me, this is information overload. Happy face. Okay, there we go. We got some happy faces. All right, so what does all of this mean? What does all of this mean? You're like, okay, well, now I know the 3 macronutrients and I got too much information on all 3 of them. It means that these 3 macronutrients are essential for a happy, for a healthy, for a well-functioning body. Now, if you have a sensitivity or an allergy to dairy or gluten, that doesn't mean that you have to avoid carbs altogether. And there are various other carb sources that don't include gluten. And a sensitivity to lactose, which is just a simple sugar, can be circumvented as well. People that say, carbs just don't agree with me. I can't, every time I eat bread or, they just, whatever carbs or pasta. There are a bunch of different types of carbs. So, if somebody says, hey, carbs don't agree with me, they may have a sensitivity to a particular type of carb source, but that doesn't mean a sensitivity to all of them. A special note for all of us women here, because that's who's predominantly here in the group. As we age, and approach menopause, have some fluctuating hormones. The hormones specifically, estrogen and progesterone, have some abnormal levels. Why is this important? You're like, what? These hormones play a role in how sugar is digested and is used in the body. And without these hormones being at a normal level, at where they need to be, the sugars that our body may have just been able to use no problem back in the day suddenly have trouble being used, and the body converts and stores it into stored energy, fat. So limiting our added sugar intake, the sweets and treats, may be a good idea. Notice I said limiting, not completely avoiding. But I think I mentioned this yesterday. Another point, I mentioned this yesterday in the Q&A. I think it was Colleen's question. It's simple carbs, these sweets, these sugars, the things that it's energy and it needs to be used right away, that need to be avoided before bed, because all of that energy is to be used rapidly by the body. And if we eat a piece of cake and then go lay down, it has nowhere to go. That's why kids, after they eat a bag of Skittles, all of that energy, them running around, that's that bag of Skittles. That's a true story. And so if you are going to have something sweet, just make sure you go and use that energy doing something. Take a walk, or do something to utilize that energy appropriately. Just don't go lay down. But looking at some food choices, you hold up a granola bar and you're like, okay, Kelsey, is this carbs? Is this fats? Is this a protein? Good question. Good question. A lot of foods have a combination of all 3. And peanut butter is a perfect example. I hear a lot of people, I am related to a few of these people, that take a big scoop of peanut butter and eat it straight off the spoon and say, I'm getting my protein for the day. And I don't know if I'm the first to tell you, but hopefully I'm not the last to tell you. Protein coming from peanut butter is not a good source of protein. Peanut butter is not a very good protein source. One, it's not a complete protein. It's not an animal source. It's a nut, so it has quite a bit of fat to it. Not like it's bad, but it's more substantial than any other of the macronutrients. And it's also a source of complex carbohydrates. It has all three. Meat is a complete protein. If you go out and have a burger or have a steak, it's a complete protein, so it's a protein source, but it probably has a little bit of fat as well. So things aren't usually one or the other, not all the time. Sometimes, but not all the time. So if you have used MyFitnessPal, or you can use, labels, they have the macronutrients and you can see what makes up each one. So for example, this is a protein bar box. I'm not promoting a specific brand. This just happens to be what I have at this very point in time. And I understand that it is backwards. I'm sorry. I don't know how to flip it. But all right, so this protein bar, I don't know if you can see. So here up at the top we have, the total calories, and then we have the total fat. We'll have the total carbohydrates, and then we'll have the protein. And under each category, it should break it down into what else is involved. So it has the total fat and all the different types of fat. You have the total carbohydrates, and I'll break it down by sugar, by fiber. This one happens to have sugar alcohol in it. And then protein. Protein's just protein. It won't tell you if it's complete or incomplete. But because this has whey in it, which comes from dairy, it is considered a complete protein source. Anyway, so interestingly, I know I'm going a little nerdy here. Bear with me. Bear with me. So, carbs and proteins per gram. So, these are all listed in grams. I'll say carbohydrates, 22 grams. Protein, 20 grams. So, those two, carbs and proteins, for each gram, it's 4 calories. 4 calories per gram. Now, fats are interesting. They are not 4 calories per gram. They are 9 calories per gram. And some of you are, you'll track on your apps and you'll look at the breakdown of you'll see the carbs, proteins, and fats. You've seen these things before, but you may not have known exactly that they were macros. But you'll look at these apps and you'll see the grams and you'll feel like, I'm making up a number. I'm eating 50 grams of fat. I'm eating 50 grams of protein. Why are the graphs so off? Well, like I said, the fat is a little bit more dense nutritionally than carbs and proteins. Fats are more nutritionally dense per gram. The calories are more than double than that of a carb or protein. And again, it's not to tell you that we need to avoid fats. We do need to be more mindful of them because, again, they're nutrient dense and they add up quickly. So, to throw another wrench at you, I'm sorry. This, like I said, this is going to be information overload. To throw another wrench at you, this number, this total calories, this label is regulated. The rules for it are regulated by the FDA. But this number can be wrong up to 20% off either direction. That is what companies are allowed. This can make counting calories, if you count calories, very challenging and not very practical. So this can be off 40 calories, either direction. That can make a big difference at the end of the day if you're adding up calories. And so I'm going to have another infographic coming at you at the end of this live. You're going to have somebody to look at. And again, information overload. So you have all of this information and you're like, I don't know even what to eat now. All of these labels are wrong. Fat has more calories than carbs and proteins. And then you're breaking down all the macros into more little macros. If this is information overload, put a 1 in the comments. Put a 1 in the comments. If this is information overload, and I'm fully aware that it is, but if you're feeling a little like, put a 1 in the comments. I just got a wow face pop up. That's crazy, right? It could be off up to 20%. That makes me mad. It should make everybody mad. But that's why people count macros. Is that something everybody should do? We'll talk more about that. But we got some 1s. Okay. All right. So Lori's like, I'm following along. I'm great. Awesome. So here, you're like, what am I supposed to do? I am not asking you to change anything. I am not here to frustrate you. I don't want you to get discouraged. I want to educate you. I want you to be more mindful about what you are consuming and make good choices 80 to 90% of the time. The other 20% of the time, you should be, enjoying life. Have a piece of chocolate or whatever it is that you enjoy, but making, like I mentioned yesterday, smart decisions that move you towards your health and fitness goals 80% of the time, but working up to that. Do I ask my clients to count calories? Not all the time, not necessarily. I'll have them track for a week or so, maybe aim for a specific target, just to see kind of where they're at. But then making it small adjustments from there. Tracking is not sustainable in the long term. Counting calories is not sustainable in the long term. It's not anything I strive to have people do if they're just trying to live a healthy life. If they have specific goals, I have one right now, she may be on here, but she gets macros. I give her macro goals and she hits those macros and she has a very specific goal she's trying to reach. But not something that is sustainable in the long term. So tomorrow we're going to discuss what the heck am I supposed to do? What does my body need? What does my body need? But speaking of clients, I do have 4 spots left in the Nutrition Reset, the 90-day one-on-one coaching program I opened up yesterday. If you are serious about improving your relationship with food, about understanding nutrition, if you're interested, you can fill out an application, and I'll see if you qualify for a call. It is by application only. The link will be put in the description of the live. It'll also be in the comments. It is on the picture of this Facebook group, and if you say me, I will share it with you. I'll share the link directly to you. But remember, I'm closing off applications Monday night, so that's tomorrow night. You have one more day. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up if that makes sense. We'll be reconvening tomorrow. We have a few minutes, and I am going to open it up for Q&A briefly. We'll end right here about 6:30, and I'll be out of here. If you're watching the replay, still feel free to put your questions in at the bottom, and I will go back and answer them. If you put in a question to yesterday's live, I haven't seen it recently, but I go back at the end of the night and look for it. But if you have questions about macros specifically, in general, if you have specific questions, that's something you DM me. But if you have general macro questions, put it in the comments. Let me know, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability here in the next couple minutes. Like my empty box. You ask me the specific macros of something, I will not know that answer. I can look it up. But like again, you can still post the questions. I'm just kind of talking to fill the space. But I was looking online and I found, an apple. An apple is predominantly carbs. It is a sugar. It has fructose in it, but it also has vitamin A. It has some potassium, all good things, good vitamins and minerals. Now, and it's a medium-sized apple, give or take, is, 60 to 100 calories. It depends on the size, depends on the type, depends on all sorts of things. But you get a fun pack of Snickers or Skittles or something. Same exact calories, but same exact carbs. But this is all simple sugar. It's all added sugar, and there's no additional nutritional value to it. It doesn't have any vitamins and minerals in it. So see, that's kind of the comparison. Yes, you need carbs, but you kind of have a choice here. This one has some added fiber. This one has some added nutrients that you need. We'll talk a lot about that tomorrow, but that's kind of gives you a little comparison there. What are the best foods we aging women in the carb category to keep us full? So, great question, Heather. The foods that best keep you full happen to be actually fats and proteins. However, fiber will help keep you fuller longer because it's a little bit more bulky and it doesn't digest to the fullest extent. So foods with fiber in the carb category would be beneficial to help curb hunger. That could be potatoes. The skin is high in fiber. What else? High in fiber. Vegetables are very high in fiber, and those are predominantly carb sources. But I can look up some more. Those are just a couple off the top of my head. Any other questions? Great question, Heather. All right, I know you all are anxiously awaiting those infographics, which I will get pulled up. All right, well, we have one more minute. Again, if you're watching the replay, feel free to post a question as well. But if you don't have any other questions, and if you submit a question too late, that's okay. But tomorrow, like I said, we're talking about what does the body need? And like I mentioned, if you want that application for the 90-day nutrition reset, let me know. Or it should be fairly easy to find. But if you can't find it, if you want me to send it to you directly, let me know. Or just put me in the comments. And I will chat with you all tomorrow. Hope you're having a wonderful time celebrating Father's Day in whatever capacity that is. And I will chat with you all tomorrow.